Hey y'all, it's your girl Dr. Malika on Pivot with Dr. Malika, and I'm so glad to be with you today. Listen, Pivot family, we've had some great guests so far on season 6, and this episode will not disappoint. Today, I have with me Kianna Wilson. Okay. Now, I have coined her the agriculture expert. She's so much more than that. She's also a mother of 2 beautiful children. She's a wife. She's a businesswoman. She is intelligent. She is everything that I love my sisters to be. She is also the graduate of the Howard University, home of the Bisons. Now, I have never attended Howard, went to a graduation, got some family ties, but have much respect for Howard University and love it when I come into contact with their graduates. So I am excited to bring you, Pivot family, Kianna Wilson, who's going to talk about an industry that we don't normally hear about, but because of what's happening in the world today, come on here, in politics, we are hearing a little bit more about our farming, agriculture, the whole nine, and how they're being impacted, which will then trickle down and impact us. So I am excited to bring to you Kianna Wilson.
Hello.
Hello, Kianna.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me today.
Listen, the world is better because you are here talking about what you do and just who you are. As you know, with Pivot, y'all, we like to talk to folks who have had intentional or unexpected changes in their life, but we say, what? They're still winning. And so I am glad that you could be here with us, Kianna, to share with us about you, about who you are, and this whole idea of agriculture, what it means, how it's being impacted by what we see today with our current administration, what you've seen, some of the trends, and maybe some things about how we can strategize and get ourselves prepared. So, but first, before we get into all that, who is Kianna Wilson? And girl, how did your path take you to agriculture?
First, thank you for having me. And this is an honor. I'm not one that talks about myself on a regular basis, if not ever. Um, but I do think it's important to share my story. And so I'm
Mm-hmm.
glad that you came to me and we can sit down and do this.
Yes.
I'm
Thank
just
you
a
for saying
girl.
yes. Thank
Oh,
you for saying yes.
absolutely. Absolutely. I'm just a girl from Louisiana. That's where I'm from. I'm from Louisiana. I was born in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. I was raised in New Orleans. But from a very young age, I always felt like God was preserving me for something. Like there was a
Mm,
purpose for my life. And I say this because I didn't really have a typical, normal, I guess you would say, upbringing.
okay.
When I was young, um, I was exposed to things that children just really shouldn't be exposed to all the time. I had a lot of hardships in my life. Raised by a single mother, and my brother and I, we literally, they say, when life picks you up and moves you, that's exactly what it did. Um,
Mm,
so for us, we moved from Louisiana all the way up the East Coast and ended up in Maryland.
wow.
And through that process, there was a lot of hardships. We were exposed to poverty. We were dealt homelessness. And when I tell you, homelessness is real, and there's a lot more people than you think that have lived that life of living in their cars or
Hmm.
at a friend's home periodically until you can find a place of your own, but then never really having that stability.
Mm,
So when I was being raised, it's true. I had my nucleus. I had my mother, and I had my brother. My father was there, but he didn't live with us. So
yes.
we were just being raised by our mom, who had to sacrifice a lot on her own, and she had her own hardships. She had a lot of things that she was going through personally, but one thing I know is that she always kept her children in mind. And so she always did things to put us into a better place.
Mm, that's good.
So, so as we moved up um, through, we've made stops in Virginia. We ended up in Maryland. When we got to Maryland and I graduated from high school, my mother said, my mother went and got a job at Howard University. And when she got a job at Howard University, she saw a door that opened for me.
Mm.
And she brought me an application and said, fill this out. And I filled out the application. And although we didn't have a lot, although we didn't have nice, I literally wore tennis shoes that my mother got out of a giveaway bag. I used to have to keep them together with safety pins.
Wow.
I did not have things, but I had books and I had school and I love to read and I just love to absorb information. And I think that because of that, which I do believe is part of God's perfect plan, because he made
Yeah.
sure that I had those specific things. But because of that, not only did I get into Howard University, which is a very difficult school to get into,
I know.
I got a full scholarship.
Wow. Full scholarship.
A full scholarship. So for someone who could never afford that kind of opportunity, that door opened for me. That could have been any opportunity. I could have gone to any school, but God saw it fit for me to attend Howard University, which I didn't
Yes.
even know at that time was as big as important in our culture as it is today.
Right. Wow.
So I went to Howard. I got my education. This is where I learned about who I was able to really truly tap into who Kianna is. And
Yes.
I learned who I am. I learned who my people are. I learned about leadership. And as a result, I was an idealist. I've always been an idealist. I always wanted to give back. I knew that whatever it was that I was going to obtain in this world, I wanted to give back in my community. Um,
Yes.
so I knew I wanted to be a teacher. So after I graduated from the School of Business at Howard University, I
Yeah.
said, I'm going to be a teacher. And I became a math teacher.
Oh wow. I did not know that you were a math teacher.
Mm-hmm.
So math is your thing?
Math is my thing. I went to school for accounting.
Okay.
I love numbers. You know that about me. You know I love it.
Can I just say, okay, let me interrupt you for just a second. I am on a committee with Kianna, okay? And the kind of things that she does with numbers, the organization, the Excel, the added, subtracted, all of the things that she does, I'm like, okay, I admire that because it really, numbers tell a story. Someone taught me that years ago. Numbers tell a story when I was working on my dissertation, right? So it was like, yeah, but I will just focus on the qualitative. Let me just tell the story in a different way. But numbers tell the story and they make the difference. So I appreciate that skill that you have and that love for numbers. I'm just saying.
For me, for all the STEM babies out there, you'll probably be able to understand what I'm about to say. But numbers tell a story. But for children that truly love math,
Mm-hmm.
you see numbers literally floating in the sky around you. It's art,
Mm.
it's life. I see numbers
Mm.
everywhere. It's about putting puzzles together and making them make sense. It's literally about balance. And so that's why I've always loved numbers as a youth. And as a young girl, that's why when I first attended Howard, I actually was an architecture major because
Okay.
I love art. I wanted to design, but I also love numbers. And I love making things make sense and make it to scale. That wasn't for me. So I decided to shift and pivot. And that's when I changed my major into accounting, because I
Okay.
knew, although I didn't know what I wanted to be, I knew that I love numbers and I was a little nosy, and I love to see what people actually did with their numbers.
Right. What do you do with your money?
What do you do with that money? So yeah, I became a math teacher, and I did it because I wanted to give back. And I wanted to be able to be a vessel to pour out everything that has been put into me. So I spent
Mm-hmm.
about 4 or 5 years being a teacher. And then an opportunity came along for me to do sales. And I was
Okay.
just doing it on the side because, let's be honest, teachers don't make a lot of money.
Right.
Um, Teachers don't make a lot of money. And so I was going to do a sales job on the side. Now, when I was younger, I was a dancer, pom-poms,
Mm-hmm.
competitive dancing. In college, I was on the dance team. So the local uniform lady knew me. She was about to retire, and she said, "Why don't you start doing this part time?" So I did it, and I caught the sales bug. It was something about selling and customer service and
Yeah.
providing services to people that I also liked. So I started to tap into this new passion that I had, and I said, you know what? I'm going to go back to school and get my MBA.
Okay.
So I did. So I went and I got my MBA. And when I finished with my MBA, now mind you, I said, I'm pretty smart cookie. There's not anything that I have. There's one thing that you don't have to worry about using money to buy is an education.
Mm.
Go to the library, you can read books, and I'm all about that. I
Right.
love reading. I have a library in that room. I've got a library upstairs. My children have libraries. We love to read.
To read.
Yeah, so I had good grades. And when I graduated with my MBA, I looked amazing on paper, but I did not get one job interview.
Wow.
I put out.
What a feeling though. What a feeling to be equipped with the tools that the world says that you need. And the world says, this is what's going to push you forward. This is what's going to make you successful. It's not until God opens those doors. I mean, you can have it all. And I've seen that. You do all the work. But until God opens the doors that need to be opened in your life, listen, you can go and do all of that working and all of that education and nothing. I have seen that.
You think you have a plan,
Mm-hmm.
but we all know how that works out.
Right,
You have a
right.
plan for your life. And for me, I'm a planner.
Okay.
I know what we're going to have for dinner for the next 3 days. I'm a planner. But God said, that's not the plan that I have for you.
Right. So you did all that planning and then what?
And I put out probably 70 applications and not one callback, not one. Not
with an MBA.
With an MBA and a degree from Howard University. So, so what ended up happening was a friend of mine reached out to me, and she was talking about her job in agriculture, and she says to me, "Well, you ever thought about working in agriculture?" And I said, "No, I do not. I've never thought about working in agriculture. I do not know what that means."
Right.
And he said, "Hold on, I'll be right back." So, literally, life fast forward. In the next 2 weeks, I was on an airplane headed to Indiana. I was in North Carolina. I was headed to Indiana to go interview with Dow, a company of Dow Chemical, Dow AgriSciences, and I have to give them credit because they're the ones who put me into this position. And there was a lady there who saw something in me, and I interviewed, and she said to me, "What do you think about working in agriculture, but with farmers?"
Okay.
I guess I'm open to anything at this point. I
Mm-hmm.
literally, the week before, had an eviction notice on my apartment. My car broke down, and I was taking the bus. And I lived in North Carolina, and there are not a lot of buses. So I was getting up at 5 a.m. to be at work by 9 o'clock. So,
Oh my gosh.
so I said, you know what? At this
Wow.
point, I feel like I'm being pushed by something that's bigger than me to consider something I would have never thought for myself.
Yes. Yes.
I stepped out, and I stepped into an area that was completely uncomfortable for me. And I moved myself in a U-Haul from North Carolina to the state of Indiana.
Wow.
That is where my life changed. Now we can get into agriculture. You want to talk about my
I do, but let me just stop right there because
Sure.
this is what we say, those unexpected changes in our life. And I don't, of course, it's the theme of the show. It's the tagline, if you will, but it's also the thought that unexpected means you still could have a plan. I had a plan. It's not that I didn't have a plan. Sometimes things happen suddenly, right? There's like those sudden changes, it's things that happen, right? My job situation was a suddenly, you know what I mean? But when you have a plan, things are lined up and ready to go. And life just does not respond. Doors just don't open. Okay. Not the ones you planned to open. And then all of a sudden it's like, how about we do this? Which totally takes you out of your comfort zone. I wrote that. Totally out of your comfort zone. Okay. Not in your wheelhouse. Not something it's not even it's not even taking, there's no real estate here about, agriculture. It's just sitting
Yeah.
right here to the
That one.
nothing. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And it's like, how does that happen? And those are the kind of pivots that I think is so important for us to talk about. So I'm thinking, for those of you out there who have experienced homelessness, um, lack some level of security because of life. Things are shifting and moving. Doors are not opening, right? Understand that God still has a plan for you.
Come on now.
And maybe we just need to surrender our plans and say, okay, you know, be open when Sister Soldier comes to you and says, how about this?
Yeah.
Instead of shutting the door ourselves, say, you know what, well, let me try it. So I'm loving this whole thing. And, as I think about agriculture, you said that the person you spoke with said, what about farming? So that says to me that there are other aspects of agriculture. So can you just list some of those parts of agriculture, give us a little bit of an understanding of what areas, and now you work in farming, and what do you do?
So great question. One that I don't get often, and I think it's very educational to understand. When we
Mm-hmm.
think about agriculture, agriculture involves everything that we need to feed, fuel, and clothe ourselves.
Mm.
Okay, so when you think about the aspect of feeding, that's farming, right?
Mm-hmm.
It is culinary.
Mm-hmm.
Agriculture, it can span from farm to fork, is what we like to call it. So
Farm to fork.
farm to fork, anything that has to do with putting a seed in the ground to grow it,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
you actually consume it.
Okay.
That is and it is a large chain. It's a large channel of different activities that go into getting that seed in the ground to that fork in your mouth. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
That's one aspect of it. When we think about fueling, well, in your car, you put fuel.
Okay.
But you know that a component of that fuel is corn or soy. And a lot of
See,
people don't know that.
people don't know that.
Right, right. So when we talk about fueling, and it's not just putting fuel in your car, but it's about energy overall.
Okay.
Anything that has
Okay.
to do with energy. And you hear that in the news. There were some tariffs that went into play for energy with Canada, and
Yes.
there's a lot of
Yes.
trade that goes into all of that. And not one person can do anything themselves. You think about your community, or you think about your neighborhood. Someone might be good at baking, and someone might be good at meats, cutting meats and distributing.
Mm-hmm.
Someone might be good at cleaning houses. Someone might be good at putting clothes together. But it takes a community of diverse people in all these different aspects, and they do this inner trading or whatever it takes in the
Right.
to keep it going. If you think about that on a macro level, on a larger level with the world, we're all sharing all of these different resources that we have within our parts of the world that another part of the world might need. So we'll get into trade a little bit later, but that's just
Okay.
your open door. Take a look at it, peek at it for
Right.
it. But
So we have feed or food, and
food,
then we have fuel,
and then we talk about fiber, and that's the clothes. So
clothing. Mm-hmm.
it's the chair that I'm sitting in. It's the house. If when I think about my home was built in 1912, and they use this type of material in the walls. It's like a horse material along with plaster, and that's how the house is able to be as strong and as sturdy as it is. All of that is agriculture. We're talking about livestock. We're talking about food. We're talking about turf and soil, everything. All of that is agriculture. Believe it or not, um, even those who don't think they understand agriculture, you live agriculture every single day, from the
Day.
medicine that you take to the water that you drink. In college, we used to think that cucumbers came from the grocery store.
Right.
because they
There's a,
do, right? They do, right?
there's a seed though. There's seeds in there, right?
But they don't come from the grocery store. There's someone who is up at 5 a.m. to make sure that you have that cucumber in the grocery store when you need it and at your convenience. And that's farming.
Wow.
Mhm,
And that was your focus in the agriculture industry.
mhm, mhm. So here's what I do. But first, I just want to kind of take a pause because I want to
Yes.
acknowledge something. There's a Bible verse that I love. It's Jeremiah 29:11. For I know the plans that I have for you, declares the Lord. Plans to prosper you and not to harm you. Plans
Mm-hmm.
to give you hope in the future. Um,
Mm-hmm.
if I can encourage anybody in this moment right now, even before I start to shift to agriculture, truly spend some time with yourself,
Mm-hmm.
understand who you are, and trust the process.
Mm.
Because what happens to you tomorrow may not be what you planned today, but just know that there is a greater purpose and a greater plan. And there are steps that have specifically been ordained for your particular life. You don't have to worry
Yes.
about swerving into anybody else's lane because I'm telling you, your lane is going to be full of activity, right?
Right.
Trust and believe that everything is going to work out the way that it's supposed to be for your good. And if you start to feel like you're having some issues or things aren't working right, you have anxiety, could it be that you're swerving into a lane that you're not supposed to be in?
Mm. Mm.
I wanted to just pause with that because the next part of my story is not the lane that I thought I was going to be in. And so I
Mm-hmm.
resistance there. And because there was some resistance there, I was held back. But until I truly understood and knew who I was and knew my part that I need to play, then things start working out for its good.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right. So I just wanted to share that. It felt like that nugget. Somebody's listening. They need to hear that nugget.
Yes.
So
Yes.
here I am. I get this job offer and it's double the salary that I made before.
Okay.
And
The
that
teacher
was
job.
well, when I finished my MBA, I was an accountant for enterprise.
Okay. Okay.
Okay. All right. It wasn't a lot of money. Okay. It was not a lot of money at all. So the double
Right.
is not a big thing, but the double is also like, wow, I can't believe I just did this. This is awesome. So
Right.
here I am. My first day at my job, I am on a bus headed to a big show called Farm Progress. Look
Okay.
you up, they have it in Iowa one year, the next year they have it in Illinois, but it's a big farm show that they have. It lasts for a full week, and all of these different companies they come and they share information about farming just to keep farmers updated. So we're traveling to the show, and I look outside the window, and I'm sitting next to my mentor because I've been assigned a mentor, which is also very important.
Right.
And I said, "What is that?" And he says to me, well, "That's corn." He said, "My, we have a long way to go." But he told me in that moment, he said, "Don't worry." He said, "One day you're going to be my boss." He said, "You're going to be my boss." And he said,
Mm.
the reason why I say that is because you could teach anything. You could teach someone to do anything. You cannot teach likability. You cannot teach respect, and you cannot teach relationship.
Mm.
So as long as you have that, you can learn anything. So I took that very seriously, and I started my career as a seed salesman. I sold corn and soybean seed to farmers. And what that meant, boys and girls, is I went barn to barn, farmhouse to farmhouse, and sat in the kitchen of farmers talking about what type of seed they're planning on growing next year. It is not elegant. It is
Yeah.
I wore farm boots. I wore khakis that got dusty every day because I was out planting seed as well, and it was hot. And I'm a little black girl out here selling seed to.
Corn. And I believe everything that I've read or have seen said that farmers are up when we are sleeping and snoring. They are up at what, 4 o'clock in the morning, starting their day.
Yeah, yeah. So I was up early,
So
and
you were up early.
I was in my pickup truck driving across the state of Indiana. Yeah, I did that. So I did that job, and I really enjoyed it. But here I am, this little girl, natural hair, I had a little short afro at the time, And I'm out there doing this job. And I personally, at the time, didn't see anything wrong with me doing it. Now we look at the state of race relations and everyone is talking about DEI hires and all of this stuff. I didn't see anything wrong with what I was doing. I was just out there trying to learn.
Right, right.
So I was just creating and carving a space for myself to be more educated. So I would do that. I built these relationships. I met these amazing farmers, and we just had a really good time.
Right.
And then I got a promotion. And I moved from Fort Wayne, Indiana to Indianapolis. And in Indianapolis, I got to look at different parts of the business. I looked at the distribution chain, and I got to work within the distribution chain, understanding who all of the different partners are, who buy product and who sell product. And so it was a little bit less farming, a little bit more business. But
Okay.
necessary for my improvement and my evolution in becoming today. During that period of time, I met my husband, so it was wonderful. So it was all
Right.
and so after that, I went from selling seed. The next shift was selling crop protection. So crop
Okay.
protection is
Like insurance?
well, no. So that's crop
Okay.
insurance. So there's crop protection, and what that is pesticides.
Oh,
So
okay.
it is the herbicides that keeps the plant free of weeds. It is the insecticides that keep the plant free of insects that can burrow into it and cause disease or cause breakage or take away
Right.
the yield. Or it is the fungicides that keep the plants free of disease. And so I lived in Virginia and back in North Carolina, where I sold crop protection for about 4 years. I did that for some time. And then someone saw it within me and said, you've really kind of gotten the business aspect of this. I think you understand a lot. What do you think about marketing? And so they moved me back to Indianapolis, and I became a marketer.
Okay.
Where I worked in communications, and I helped to set prices and forecast how much product was needed, because there is a bigger monster when it comes to not just farming, but there's a bigger monster when it comes to manufacturing and getting product and being able to move that. It's called a supply chain. So I had to learn about supply chain and all of that, and branding.
Okay.
Spent time with that. My company did some merging with another company. Dow and DuPont merged together, became this big company. And then my roles started to increase. So then I became a product manager, and I managed row crop fungicides. So I just focused in one aspect of the business, one small little area that has, it means a lot to other areas, but I just needed to focus on that one area. And then another company came knocking because they were interested in what I could do for them. And they came with a wonderful offer for me to not just manage one portion of their fungicide business, but the entire thing. So I got an offer to go to FMC Corporation, which is who I work for now, in Philadelphia, and manage their entire fungicide portfolio. And so I did that. I did that for a number of years. I launched three game-changing products that are still being used today. I had a lot of fun doing that. And then I became a district sales manager, because since I have already sold, now I to lead a team, and I became a district sales manager. But that was only for a short while, because an opportunity came that I'm doing today, which is to work in external affairs and manage industry relations. This job is fun because what it does is it takes all of the experiences that I've had before.
Okay.
From sitting at the farmer's table.
Yes.
To branding and understanding what it is that they like and what they don't like and what is going to get their attention.
Yes.
To the crop protection aspect of it, to launching new products, and it sales, everything. And it puts me in a seat today to be able to go around. And I work specifically with trade organizations and grower organizations. So any associations that their members are growers. I work with them and I partner with them. I sponsor them. I hold their hands. We walk through life together, literally. I'm there trying to understand what are the issues that farmers are having today.
Right.
So if it's a cotton group, what's the issue that a cotton farmer is having today? Or if it's a strawberry group, what are the opportunities that strawberry farmers have in the future? So I work across all crops.
Now, one might ask, how many different farmers are there out there? Are
Oh my
farming
goodness.
specific? You said strawberry, you said cotton. I know you've talked about corn. I mean, again, when you're uneducated,
Mhm.
you're just thinking a blanket farmer is a farmer, right?
No.
But how many different, just approximately, different farmers are there? Cows. Hundreds, thousands,
Yes, hundreds of thousands of farmers are out
hundreds of
there. And if
thousands.
I did my homework before, I would bring you an exact number from the USDA of how many farmers there are. So that's your homework to go to, my friends, the USDA's website, and just
Hmm.
you can look and you can see how many farmers there are out there across how many crops. Now, I'm going to ask you a question, Malika. What is your favorite thing to eat for breakfast?
Eggs.
And what, like your meal would just be eggs, or what else would be?
Probably at this age, hard-boiled egg.
Mm-hmm,
It's probably juice,
mm-hmm,
some sort of a drink,
mm-hmm,
maybe toast,
mm-hmm.
but mostly eggs and fruit.
Okay,
Eggs and
great.
some fruit.
So let's take that plate. So we have eggs, we have toast, we have fruit,
Yes.
and we have pressed juice or
Yes.
fresh juice. Okay.
Cold press. Yep.
So let's think about that. And we asked the question about how many farmers there are. So we're talking about eggs. There's a poultry farmer, the
Mm,
livestock, and they're producing your eggs every day. Then we have the toast. There is a wheat farmer or cereals farmer that is out there that is helping to produce the cereals or the wheat, the grain that is going to go into that toast. Not to
right.
mention, when you break down the recipe for toast, you've got sugar. So there's a sugarcane farmer out there. There's just so many different components depending on what type of bread you like that go
Hmm.
into that. Take the butter, it goes right back to the dairy farmer. Okay, so
Right.
and then we have the fruit.
Fruit. Yeah.
So you can go down to Florida. There's a watermelon farmer. There's a citrus farmer. You go to California. There's a strawberry farmer. The blueberries are there's a huge amount of blueberries that are grown in the Northeast. Not to mention your cranberries. If you like your cranberry juice, you get that from there. Apples are everywhere. Then you start to think about just the other components that come into just everything else that you like. If you like spinach, there it is. You go out to California and you will be
Mushrooms,
so
onions in my eggs.
by the amount of produce that's out there. And every
Yes.
farmer has a specialty because there is regulation, my friends. You cannot grow everything on your farm, especially for
Right.
mass production. So
Okay.
there's a farmer that specializes in peaches. There's a farmer that specializes in almonds. There's a farmer that specializes in tobacco. Okay, it's all being grown here in the United States.
Mm, mm. That So, fast forward then when we think about farming, hundreds of thousands of farming. Let me tell y'all, this right here is good information. I'm telling you. So, when you think about the hundreds of thousands of farmers, and I wrote this down, every farmer has a specialty, right? We can't grow strawberries, almonds, and apples all in the same
You're not.
ground, right? But so fast forward, we see our current administration and some of the different changes that are taking place that are creating challenges for the agricultural industry, right? For specifically our farmers. I read here in early months of 2025, the US administration implemented significant tariffs affecting key trading partners. So when we think about no man being an island, which is a quote, no man is an island, you said it earlier, we all sort of depend on each other,
Mhm,
right? To make this thing work, food, fiber, fuel.
mhm.
And so we see where China, there was a 10% tariff on all Chinese imports. Canada and Mexico. And they have had a profound effect on the agricultural community. And so all of that trickles down to us, right? And so what are you seeing? What are some of the trends out there? I would imagine there's a level of anxiety for farmers, what they're seeing. And then I've also seen you in DC. I've also seen you've had to go. And where does that put you in the work that you do um, to advocate for farmers or to advocate for them in some way? So talk a little bit about what you're seeing, how this is trickling down to us, but then what is some of the work that you have to do during this time?
Okay, sure. Well, I'll start by honoring the corporation that I work for and
Sure.
saying that all of the thoughts and ideas and the words that come out of my mouth are mine and not my organization's. And I say that because I don't belong to my organization. I have lived this life and I've had so many different experiences from my youth up to where I am right now that there's no way that FMC could take ownership of the thoughts that I have, and nor would they want to. But that's why they love me so much, is because I think of them like this. So I do want to say that these are my thoughts. I, I, so in my role that I have right now, my role is to advocate for U.S. farmers.
Okay.
I could advocate for other farmers in other countries, but that would change my job. But my
Right.
job specifically is United States farmers. And so, so with that said, I literally, I'm there every step of the way. I'm your friend.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so one thing I do when I go into these spaces with farmers is I want to know, what are you concerned about? I want to know, what are you hopeful for? I want to know, what do you see as an opportunity? What is something that we can do together? And the reason why I say that is because, yes, I work for this organization. This organization has sent me out to do this job, but it's so that the organization can continue to evolve and to get
Yeah.
better. Okay, so I go and I receive this information and I bring it back to my organization to say, this is what we need to do to help make the livelihoods of American farmers better. This is the job.
Yeah.
Okay. So it's a cycle of information, and it's all about trying to make my company better so that we can do better because we've got to eat. I
Yes.
think that maybe 2 years ago, I'm not sure if the number has changed, but in the past couple of years, it says that we have 10 billion mouths to feed.
Mm.
And it just continues to grow because
Yes.
families continue to grow, and our appetites continue to change. That puts a lot of pressure on a limited resource, which is what we call land. With housing, and we're developing new things every day, we're taking away space from farmers. So we start talking about the anxiety and the pain points that farmers have. One of those is, you give me this job to grow food for the world, but you keep taking away my land.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So there's one anxiety that you have, is the limitation on land. Not to mention that the reuse of land over and over and over again, you've got to be very intentional about how you keep up the land. Be
Yeah.
sustainable about how you keep up the land. We cannot tear down our land. We cannot damage our land because it's the only one that we have, and we have to
Right.
continue to grow off of that land. So that's a level of anxiety that I think us in the city, and I'm just being I'm being very cautious about how I say that, but we don't consider these things very
Right.
often.
Right.
Another thing that we don't consider is the generational longevity or of your particular business. This is their business,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
all they know. Okay,
Right.
and this is the job, and they like this job to go for generation and generation, be able to pass it on to someone else.
And
Um,
it has. Many farmers have been able to pass their business,
mhm.
down from one generation to another. And is that something that's becoming a challenge?
It is a challenge. And I'll say also, because I want to also acknowledge minority farmers as well. A lot of their land is taken from them, or a lot of their land is shrinking as well. So yeah, you've been passing on land from generation to generation to generation. There's so many different, like, it's not a monolith. Like, there's so many different farms, there's so many different situations, but the sustainability of the American farmer is one that we need to be concerned about over time.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Mm-hmm.
the fact that, they're not making money. You think that they are, but the margins are getting shorter and shorter and shorter.
Mm,
It kind of evolves into the conversation that we're having today when we're talking about trade and we're talking about tariffs. Okay. If you are growing soybean and you know that you sell a portion of your soybean to your local economy to use for whatever, but another portion of that go shipped overseas.
mm-hmm.
But they stopped doing that because now it's a fight, or now we don't agree.
Right.
So now you don't have that income. Or if there's a tariff put on top of that, when you already have your margins are here, and now there's a tariff that's hitting you, and what it's causing is for you to make that much money. That's less money that you have to feed your family.
Right.
To be able to put back into your business. And so that's the issue right now.
And it does not cover the amount of work and the amount of money you probably put into ensuring that you have product.
Let me not even go there. And
I don't
also,
mean to go there, but
if
I'm
we
thinking
talk
this
about
is
labor as well, because we
exactly
just said the work, but I think you were talking about the amount of equity and sweat equity that you put into your own business, but then you also have people that come and work on your farms, because farming is not a job that people are like, oh, I cannot wait to wake up and go farming today. So it's really difficult to find people to come and work the land. And now
right.
that is an issue as well.
Let me tell you something. I think I've been prepared for this interview. I mean, I didn't know at the time I was gonna interview you for the show, but Yellowstone. Have you
Mm.
seen Yellowstone?
I have. I love that show.
Love it. And I know it's a script. These are
It's
actors.
real life though.
But I like to believe that some of that is real.
That
The
is real.
greed, the desire for land,
Uh-huh.
land stolen,
Uh-huh.
the desire to pass
Come on
down
now.
from one
Talk about
generation to another, but it
it.
really wasn't your land in the first
Yeah,
place.
yeah.
Um, you know, like, but it makes great TV. It makes great drama on Paramount.
Uh-huh.
But these are the kinds of, I mean, we think about corporate America, but the same components in corporate America are happening in agriculture or specifically farming.
Yeah.
Um, and again, I keep saying this has a profound impact on American people who aren't thinking about it. You know, they're going about their business. And that's why I really, someone recommended you need to talk to Kianna. I think it was Sister Lael. I think she did say it, but and I had forgotten about it. But then this came up: the tariffs, farmers, what we're hearing on CNN and MSNBC, and it's like we need to know so that we can respond appropriately. How do we help farmers in our own way? What are some things, Kianna? I'm asking you. What are some things that we can do in the privacy of my home, but with the resources that I have? What can I do? Now, I will say this. I will tell you what I do, then please answer.
Uh-huh.
I try my best to get eggs from a few small farmers here in town. They're very small farmers. I know that there are eggs on the market, but there are folks who are, you know, growing, they have chickens and they're growing eggs, and I try to support that. Or those businesses, you know, there used to be a time where you could go into Whole Foods and there were different small businesses who had a space there to sell their products.
Uh-huh.
Let's just say that we see a little bit of change in that.
Uh-huh.
So I like to go to those small stores where you have small businesses, farms who are selling their products. In my mind, I think I'm contributing, but you know, what are ways that we can help in whatever way possible, our farmers supporting products? What can we do?
Whew, that's a loaded question. It's a
Do your
loaded
best.
question because this is a operation. But uh, one thing that I would commend you on, which is what I would tell people to do, is get to know your community and know who's in your community.
Mm,
because being able to support a local farmer can change lives.
Mm, 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 mm.
And it not only just puts a couple dollars in their pocket,
Yeah.
but it's marketing. When you start to think about
Mm,
it, it's one of my other favorite things to talk about. We talk about marketing and branding. You go
mm,
get something from that farmer, and you just did it just now,
mm,
and you clearly had a positive experience with
mm-hmm.
that cycle of buying, of procurement.
Right.
What you just did was you shared it, and you,
Mm-hmm.
oh, I buy my eggs from a local farmer. If you didn't have a positive experience, you wouldn't have just shared that.
Right.
It's about that influence, and it's about broadening that influence and broadening that experience with other people, so you know, oh, it's safe to do that. I think that,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, today politics has played such a role in creating a divide in people that sometimes we are afraid to even talk to people that are not like us.
Mm-hmm.
And we
Yep.
can't do that. We can't afford to be like that anymore. We have to do our best to bridge and live in community. So I
Right.
would encourage everyone here to get to know what's around you, even outside
Mm-hmm.
cities and your towns. What farms are near me? Okay, because you never know. Somebody might be selling eggs. Somebody's selling pumpkins when it's time for harvest.
Mm-hmm.
Someone is doing pictures on their farms. Go and pour into your local community, because that's how you're going to build up your local community. And
Right.
that, the economics behind that are going to be life changing in a small sphere of things. However, if more people did it, then it will be more impact.
Right.
So
Right.
utilize your community, pour in and invest in your local community.
That's good. Invest. And that is critical, right?
Mhm.
For their success so that they can continue to produce, to really begin to invest, right?
Okay.
Invest in the community.
Can I offer another one?
Absolutely.
Restaurants. Um,
Okay.
love chain restaurants. They're great. They're great. They're consistent. You
Mm-hmm.
know that it's safe. But there are a lot of local restaurants, small businesses, people who are really good at burning something in the kitchen. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
I would absolutely support their businesses because they're also local and they also impact your local community. So, you could go to the big restaurants on Saturday, but maybe on Tuesday, venture out in your local area and go to someone's small business or their food truck or something like that, because you want to make sure you're building up your community. We've got to be about that.
I like that too. You said restaurants and food trucks because we see there's a rise of food trucks.
Mhm,
Folks are figuring out, I think COVID, the pandemic has really sparked that entrepreneurial, got to get out there and be with the people.
mhm,
And so support your local, restaurants, food trucks. These are the kinds of ways that we can really support our local farmers. Living in Western Pennsylvania, I think I've been exposed to more farming
mhm,
than when I'm originally from the Philadelphia area. So not that I wasn't exposed, but more here,
mhm.
there's more farming to me where we live now. And so I get excited now, like when the farmers market starts back up in here,
I
where
get
we are,
it.
just
Mhm,
the idea of being able to go and get some fresh produce.
mhm,
And I don't drink milk anymore, but fresh produce and meats, even
mhm.
things that support the local businesses in the area, and even folks who builders.
Yes.
you know it's just a wonderful thing. And so that's why I felt it important to ask the question, how can we support our farmers? It makes a difference. It
Yeah.
really makes a difference.
Yeah. Yeah.
So let me ask you, would you've had a lot of different opportunities, career work areas, sales, marketing. You were a teacher, accounting, and that numbers was your jam. Always, that was your thing.
Mhm.
Do you feel like you found your passion? Do you feel like this is more than just a 9 to 5? Is it something that you're very passionate about? I heard you say earlier you felt like you were becoming a part of something bigger than you.
Mhm, mhm. I think this is a part of the story. I'm not sure that this is a story. Um,
Yes.
and I say that because uh, as I move about and I evolve, I realize my part that I play in the plan. For example, right now, for the past number of years, it's been about education and outreach,
Hmm.
sharing what I see on this side of the world with the people that I grew up with. So we talk about those cucumbers coming from the grocery store. I'm able
Hmm.
to share with my friends, and they can see through my life experiences and my pictures on social media that there's much more to it. So I'm
Yes.
educating in a way. Do I see what I'm doing as my passion? I say that I really enjoy what I do. I
Good.
love what I do, and I love the impact that I'm making, but I'm not quite sure that I'm making the impact that I'm supposed to. I feel like
Okay.
there's so much more that God wants me to do in this world.
Yes.
And so I'm prepared for it and I'm excited for it, but I do feel like these are all um, bricks in that foundation to really be able to do something major.
Yeah.
I'm just really excited for the future, whatever that leads me to. But I want to live in a world where I am contributing to my community, my origin, my people,
Hmm.
but then also serving the community and helping to bridge gaps with people. And I can't
I
stop.
love it.
I can't stop. Got to keep going.
Gotta keep going. I love it. I love what you're doing. Listen, I'm going to ask you one more question. What is the one thing that you would tell someone right now who says, I feel like God has this unique thing for me to do, but it just doesn't line up with what everyone is telling me I should be doing. Like it's too different for me. I'm going to push myself into out of my comfort zone, and I'm just not sure. What do you tell somebody they're like right there, but they're unsure? It just doesn't look familiar to them. What would you say to them?
Your gifts will make room for you. Proverbs 18:16, 16, 18. It's one of the two. Look it up. Um, your gifts will make room for you. Know who you are. Trust
Hmm.
who you are. Start a journal, something of maybe gratitude every day,
Hmm.
that so that you can pour into yourself,
Right.
um, so that you can start to pour into other people and really
Mm.
your gifts for other things that are not just you. Let's not be selfish with our gifts. And I say that because those doors are not going to open. They're
Right,
not
right,
going to
right.
open for you until you're ready for it. Okay. And so you need to make sure you're happy. You need to make sure you're ready. Um,
Hmm.
it's going to happen at the drop of the dime. You're not going to be ready. Is the pivot is going to be real, okay? But you have got to be self-sustainable, and you've got to be able to embrace yourself in order to make other people happy. Okay, so I would absolutely say that, and don't worry so much about what's going to happen around the corner because your gifts are going to make room for you. Um, and I know that it's on my heart right now. And if you don't mind, I do want to say one other thing. And I am in my big old age, and I have my children and I have my husband that I love and I support with all my heart. And a lot of times, us career women can deal with mom guilt of living
Mm.
our lives and being excited about what we want to do, but then we feel like, oh, maybe I shouldn't be because I need to be home or I need to be close by. So you kind of forego your passions and the things that you like so that you can, I guess, make other people happy, but you're not really fulfilling yourself. And I
Yes.
suffered from a lot of mom guilt because I travel a lot. Because on Capitol Hill, it's supposed to be in at the drum
Dance
recital.
recital.
But what I share with my son when he says, "Oh, mom, I don't want you to go. Why are you always traveling?" I say, "Nope, don't do that." I say, because when you want to go outside and play soccer, or when you want to go do this or go swimming or whatever, I don't stop you and say, "Why can't you be in the living room with me watching a TV show?"
Oh, that's
Go
good.
and explore and grow and have fun. Whatever makes you happy makes you happy. So I ask you to do the same for me. When I go get on that airplane and when I travel out to California or to Florida or to Texas or Nevada, I'm doing what I love, and I just need for you to be happy for me. And that relieves that guilt, because I know we're sharing our experiences and they're allowing me to be great. Go be great. As
You better go be great.
I'm allowing them to be great. You know what I'm saying? I say, go be great.
That's a whole nother show.
And
I might
nothing
have to have
else.
a I might have a need a panel of moms for that one. But let me read something.
Sure.
And we talked about it. You just mentioned it here a few minutes ago. But Proverbs 18:6 in the
Thank you,
Amplified Version.
18 and 16.
18:16. A man's or woman's gift given in love or courtesy makes room for him or her and brings him or her before great men and women. Okay.
Amen. Come
And
on
I
now.
never saw that translation, but it's like, and it will bring you before great people, right? And so let me just say, I appreciate you, Kianna, being here to share your pivot experience, your pivots, your experience or your pivot experiences with us, and really, letting us in, and then helping our pivot family with some questions that they may have that I myself could not answer, but you just as this is the right time for someone to hear your story, and to really pull from what you have to share today. So I don't want you to go anywhere, but I want to say thank you.
Absolutely. This
The
is my
pivot
absolute pleasure.
the pivot family thanks you. And so hold tight, okay? Hold tight. Y'all, listen, we had the agriculture expert Kianna Wilson here to share with us her knowledge, nuggets of wisdom, her story, everything that she could possibly share in this time frame. And listen, I want you to share this with everyone. We need to know how we can help contribute to the success of our agriculture, specifically our farmers. And we have the power to do it, and we can be very intentional about how we buy, who we buy from, what we eat, what we take in. And I'm just delighted about learning more and now doing better, right? If you know better, you do better. So thank you so much for joining us, Pivot Family, on Pivot with Dr. Malaika, where we talk to folks who have intentional or unexpected changes in their life, but they're still winning.